thank you so much, Dejuan, for joining Horror News Network here. You know, you're from the 1992 horror classic Candyman, and
Yes.
first of all, does it seem like 1992? For me, I can't believe that's so many years ago. How do you feel about that?
Man, it was amazing, experience working on the film. And it's like it's so many years ago, but people still actually will recognize me, especially like if I do a clean shave or something like that, they'll definitely recognize me from Candyman. And it's like I'm 39. I did that movie 30 years ago. And it's one of those legendary movies, It's one of those movies that when it came out, it kind of just stuck. And, everybody started getting hooked on it, I
I
was
got
scared of the Candyman.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the questions I have. You know what? I had a list of questions, but I'm just going to bounce around and do this more conversational because that's going to be, I think that's going to the flow better for me. You know, speaking of that, you were 9 when you did the movie, is that right?
I was 9 when I did the movie. I met the Candyman and everything. And when it came time to do the cast and crew screening, I walked out the theater. When that music came on, I was like, I'm out of here. I said, call me in when my part comes up.
I got you. That film was very creepy. You know, it just what and you hit the nail right on the head. It wasn't just the imagery, it was the actual it was the music as well,
Yeah.
which was very like unsettling. One thing I wanted to ask you, Dejuan, is how did you actually get into acting? I know you started, didn't you have was it Boys in the Hood that you got a small role in?
Well, see exactly Boys in the Hood. All right, here's the story. So I'm a kid. I'm actually visiting California, visiting my aunt in California, and Marley Gibbs had an acting school called Crossroads Academy in Leimert Park. Leimert Park is kind of a really known area in Los Angeles for having, educational, historics, African American museum over there. There's just a lot. It's historic over there in Leimert Park. And she had an acting school, and I was going to school during the day, and my aunt was going to school at night. And John Singleton, rest in peace. I worked with him later on Baby Boy too, but John Singleton was in the class, and my aunt had put me in a scene from A Raisin in the Sun. He saw me in the scene. He wanted me to be in his movie. I was a little young for the role he wanted me for, which was young Trey, but he wanted to get me in this movie, and that part got cut from the film. It was like this little scene where I'm supposed to ride up, say, some line at Cuba, y'all gonna do the oochie coochie, because he was kissing his girl on the porch, and then I ride off. But they cut that and they went over to Ice Cube on the porch. But that was my first real job, professional acting job. Before then, I had just been in classes and things like that. I was originally from Dayton, Ohio, so I was living in Dayton. And after the Boys in the Hood experience, my mom told me, well, if you go out there and you get another job, I'll let you stay in California. And my mom came later, but yeah. So I was living with my aunt, and Candyman kicked it off. And then in Living Color and Sister Sister and Boy Meets World and all other hit 90210, all kind
Wow.
of good shows during the 90s.
So it was basically your aunt that you were kind of teaming with when you moved out there. She would kind of take you to like
I did yeah.
nice.
My aunt was my acting coach, and she also was guardian over me because I was living with her at that time, and her and my uncle, and she went on all the sets. She was my eyes and ears. She knew what was going on, what the director, what producers, what the talk was going on the set. She was, keeping me focused, helping me make sure I'm on top of my lines, always on point. So, she was a
That
great help.
that's cool, man. So she's kind of like a mentor to you in that sense.
Yeah, in that sense. Yeah, my aunt Irene Crawford, she did a lot for me coming up as far as my acting career and everything. And
being there for me. That's awesome. You know, one thing I have to ask, and obviously you were a young kid at the time. So I'm trying to think how this. So you went to California. Is that where your audition was for Candyman?
Yeah, for Candyman, I was in California. By that point, I went out there and I came for the summer and I did some audition. I started auditioning and I auditioned for Candyman. And how I got that, it was like, I don't know, hundreds of kids that auditioned for Candyman. And I remember when I went to the callback and I got the part. Virginia Madsen came running out. You got it. You got the part. You got it. You got it. You got the role. And I was so excited, man. It was a real big deal, you know, flying to Chicago to film Candyman. My relatives from Dayton, Ohio, drove over, and Bernard Rose. Shout out to Bernard Rose, the director. The way he directed me, he had me zoned in, you know, to the character. Like he knew how to direct me and get those stares out of me and get those emotions to come out of me. So shout out to Bernard Rose. Shout out to Virginia Madsen. She also was great. You know, it was great working with her. I can remember it was freezing cold in Chicago and she would wrap her coat around me and keep me warm when we were outside. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. You know, I have to ask, you know, where you guys shot the film was a super dangerous place. That was no joke, man. Cabrini Green in Chicago is one of the scariest places. I heard stories like they would have snipers on the roof. So what, I mean, did you, as a kid, did you have any idea any of that was going on?
I had no, like as a kid, I just knew there were police everywhere, but I had no idea the kind of, I didn't really perceive the kind of situation that we were actually in shooting this movie there. And, you know, there was some hostile little situations I've heard about on the set where people getting too loud with the people in the neighborhood, you know, it can get contested. Quiet on the set. And they're like, hey, this is our neighborhood, you know, who you yelling at? But I don't know. I didn't really see any of that. I just saw like a lot of cops around. I was, you know, on set, to my trailer, to wherever we were eating, back to the hotel, you know. So but later I watched documentaries and I found out a lot of stuff like what you said. They had snipers on the roof and it was a pretty rough area.
That's gotta, you know, that's gotta be, you know, for the director, that's gotta be like a crazy choice to make. You know what I mean? All right, I want to shoot this film, and you have, you know, obviously there's like a budget they have to think about, and you have all these actors and putting them in like it was basically, some people called that a war zone at that time. Yeah. And so it was, I don't even know if something like that exists today. So it'd be crazy to think of actors going into like an environment like that where it's, you know.
Well, you know what, they do it. They do it like certain movies. You know, of course, like Menace to Society. They went into Nicholson Gardens and Watts. You know, to the projects and shot over there. So, and they did it in Training Day. I was actually on the set. I was doing some background acting work on Training Day. And I went on the set one day and we were right there in the middle of the jungle. And that was one of the roughest neighborhoods in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Like, so yeah, matter of fact, when I did Baby Boy, we were over there in the jungle. And yeah, that was it. It was, you know, the police were there, but it wasn't as crazy as Candyman. But yeah, the jungle is rough, and we were dressed like Crips.
Yeah, that's serious stuff.
Yeah, you know, but it was. I had great time working on that movie, Baby Boy. Though, great time working with John Singleton.
Oh man, yeah, I could. I mean, he was one of the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, you've had, you know, your career, you've done like so many different things, and you've worked with so many different people. Going back to Candyman, you know, you shared a lot of screen time with Virginia Madsen. What was that like, you know, as a young actor coming up, to have, you know, a kind of seasoned actress like Virginia Madsen to have lines with you? What was that like?
She was great. It was great working with Virginia. It really was. I mean, I was able to just stay, you know, in the scene and in the moment because she was so real, you know, and just the way the dialogue would just flow with us, you know. So it was we were both intense.
Right, right.
It was very intense because there's an intense situation going on. She's looking for a mass murderer, and I'm going this little kid from the hood, you know, and I'm like, I ain't scared of nobody, you know. It was very intense because you gotta think the reality is this kid was in that situation, in that environment. So I had to think about that. But, you know, I had no idea the extremities, like I said, but I had to think about that. This kid's in a rough neighborhood and I have no person who I'm living with. I'm almost like homeless. Like they showed me living in like an apartment, like an abandoned apartment in the
Right.
movie when they show me in the movie. But you don't see Jake have any like parents or anything like that.
Yeah.
This awkward kid in the movie. But yeah, working with Virginia was fabulous. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. You know, one thing that really appeals to me, and it always has, is how different Candyman and to me, let me know if you feel the same way. To me, Candyman seems more real than Jason or Michael or anything
Right,
like that because it exists in an environment that's real. You know what I mean? It's
right,
like it seems to me, you know, I just think that the whole thing about Candyman in the setting is just makes an amazing, because if you think about it, so many horror movies take place, don't go in the woods, don't go at a party, but that the urban setting of Candyman is
right.
something that really appealed to me.
Yeah, because it was set in a really realistic situation, you know. And well, you know, we got Freddy Krueger. He was a Nightmare on Elm Street. They were like kids in the 80s, but um, nobody had ever gone to like the hood and made a horror movie.
Right.
And you say his name in the mirror, so that a mirror could be anywhere. So that made it extra crazy. And then on top of that, it's a love story. Candyman is a love story. He's in love with this woman who in a past lifetime, you know, he got murdered for being with.
Right, right. And it kind of encompasses a whole bunch of different, genres and everything, but it's really a one of my favorite movies. I wanted to ask, speaking of Candyman, did you obviously you were a star in the movie. Did you ever get a chance to read The Forbidden, which the movie was based on, by Clive Barker?
I haven't, you know what? I haven't read that. I'm gonna have to read. I never thought to read it. I'm gonna have to read that.
Yeah, it's
I knew
totally
it was based on that. Yeah.
right. It's totally different than the movie. It takes place in England, but it's interesting. It definitely, I'm more of a fan of the movie because it's more of my type of setting, but it's
Oh,
definitely interesting. You may want to check that out if you can one day. What was your favorite part about filming Candyman? Is there a certain thing you remember, or that you really cherish about being on the film?
I think the scene outside the bathroom when I'm telling the story about the boy who got his privates cut off.
Yeah.
Can't fix that.
Yeah.
Better off dead. Floating in the toilet. Can't fix that. Better off dead. I mean, that scene, I mean, I really remember I remember being out there and it was like a bathroom that they built.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a bathroom that they had built this bathroom on this like abandoned lot. It was like this lot in the middle of the projects, but
Wow.
they had built this bathroom. But yeah, I remember shooting out there that day, and that's one of my most memorable moments is
It,
that one. And when they called me one take Jake, because I did this, they had this shot where I was coming in the bathroom to look where she got beat up. And we did it in like one take. It was, one take, they got what they needed. And they called me one take Jake after that.
yeah, that was a scene. Speaking of that scene, Candyman doesn't have a lot of comedy in it, obviously, but
Uh,
that scene where the guy walks in on Virginia Madsen, he's like, "I hear you're looking for Candyman, bitch." Right?
yeah.
He has the
Man, bitch. Next one. Here you looking for Candyman, bitch.
That's it.
It was just this hood guy. It was just this gangster guy who was going around portraying like he was the Candyman, and he wasn't the Candyman at all. The fake Candyman.
Yeah, that's another thing about like the setting of the movie. I mean, I think just because of the whole the people, the people that are in that environment, most of them are good, right? But they're kind of threatened by these gangsters that are there and kind of ruining the community for everyone. And not only do they have this supernatural thing in Candyman, they have some of the gangsters that are trying to portray Candyman and to do like real crimes and everything. So right. I've always found that interesting. I want to talk about two other pivotal scenes in the film. One is the bonfire scene at the end. Yeah. You played obviously a massive part in that. You saw looking out the window, Jake saw the hook go down, which was actually Helen. And then Jake gathers some people and heads out to the bonfire to kill Candyman.
And what I remember about that night is it was a very long night. And I had that torch with that fire on it. It was so hot. I could feel the heat on my face. I remember that, and we threw that. I threw that torch, and that was quite some night. That was quite some night. I fell asleep on the set that night.
Wow! I hear they actually had to. I heard they actually had to like have junk delivered to build that
they probably did. Yeah,
it was amazing. And the other scene I wanted to ask you about was the Helen's death scene at the end, her funeral, where you're kind of leading the slew of people coming up and you're carrying the hook.
Oh, my aunt's standing behind me.
So that's your actual aunt?
No, the one, not Vanessa Williams,
right?
But the lady. If you watch that scene, there's a lady standing right over my shoulder, and that's my aunt. She's
Really? So that's the one.
She's right, like it's like Vanessa Williams and me standing in front, and then my aunt is right over my shoulder, standing right behind me. So she snuck in Candyman.
That's awesome. That's all. I mean, that's so cool because she's the one that was kind of your mentor and kind of got you going with all this, right?
And she sacrificed with her life whatever she was trying to do an acting career, and she had did extra work, and she was working her way on up the ranks. And then when I came out there, she just kind of put the focus off her career and put the focus on my career.
Oh man.
That's I owe her a lot.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, but that scene is so epic when I drop the hook in the grave, because I'm passing the torch on to Helen, and who comes back and kills her husband, and it's like we're honoring her in that sense, in that scene, and we don't care about the rest of them. We drop the hook and about face, and we're out of there. But that was quite some scene right there.
Yeah, that was a really interesting scene. It was kind of sad because it was just, there was only a handful of people at Helen's funeral, and one of them was her ex-husband, I guess it was, with his new girlfriend.
With his new girlfriend, yeah.
That's not right. So thinking back to do you remember how long you were on set filming?
I remember that one night was the longest night.
Okay.
Longest night. I mean, being on the set, you used to be in there long days. I do my 3 hours back then. I would do my 3 hours of school. Sometimes they would bank a couple extra hours, depending on what the shooting schedule is. But it was. I love being on set. It was like I get to go on set where there's craft services. We can snack on stuff, and I get to portray other people and have fun doing it. So I love being on set.
That's awesome. Did you get to keep anything?
I had I don't know where. I don't have it now. I had a drawing. I had the drawing of Candyman, like from the costume department. I had that when I was a kid. I had it. Oh man! And I think I took a couple of the Jordan posters. We're in my Jake's room. I wanted the Jordan posters. because I was a big Jordan fan.
Uh-huh.
In the movie, you couldn't really see it, but they had some up. They
Really?
had some posters up. Then we had the Candyman jacket. I still have that. I
Oh,
have
do you?
the Candyman Castle Crew jacket. I still have that. It's like a jean jacket.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm glad to hear that you were able to kind of have that keepsake from there. Um, I wanted to ask you, does this surprise you, since you were in the film, like how beloved Candyman is to horror fans? I think in different genres, you know, from what I've seen at least, and maybe I'm biased, like horror fans seem to like really hold near and dear to their heart these pieces, these classics, especially from the 80s. And, obviously Candyman was 90s, but it kind of still fits into, I would say, the 80s genre of type of horror film. Does it surprise you like how much that film is beloved by horror fans?
um it doesn't, you know what? It doesn't surprise me because um after I went to a convention, to a horror convention, and Tony Todd was there, and I saw all the people. I was like, that time it surprised me, but since then it's like it doesn't surprise me anymore because I've met so many people they got Candyman dolls and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, people are serious about this Candyman.
Yeah, it was an awesome film, and it's crazy. It's just so that kind of goes to the next question I have. I wanted to see if you had seen Tony Todd or Virginia Madsen since you filmed.
We recently did a panel, and I saw him via Zoom. But I had seen Tony Todd in person. We did a horror convention together, and doing autograph pictures, taking pictures with the fans, and all that good stuff. So that I think Tony Todd, but I hadn't seen Virginia until that Zoom for like 30 years. I hadn't seen her since I was a kid.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
That
She
must
said I was coming in her trailer asking her, well, why my trailer ain't this big? I said that. She was like, yeah. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I got a good laugh out of that. I was like, oh yeah. I do remember her having a nice trailer, but she was already, like you said, an established actor. This was like my first project out. So, I got bigger trailers later. But it's like that was, yeah.
That's funny. And it's funny because Tony Todd still looks the same too.
I know. He has that voice where he can play in any scary movie.
Oh man, his voice is something else, man. That was super spooky in that.
Definitely.
So yeah, basically I have two questions here left for you. And thank you so much for your time. One thing I wanted to ask you, one of the final ones is what is, obviously, there's a new Candyman film coming out. What are your thoughts on this new film?
Well, we'll see. I'm quite curious to see, what they put out there and how they tell the story, because it's supposed to be based off somewhat the first one. So I'm curious to see what it's going to be like.
Gotcha. Gotcha. It's a tough thing for these, actors and, execs being involved in these horror remakes because the originals are so beloved, you know what I mean? Right. So it's kind of like you go into it, you're like, you get defensive, you know what I mean? It's like, okay.
The original is the original. It's the OG.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And who knows if there'll even be a Jake in this one. I heard Tony Todd is going to have some type of cameo in the film.
Yeah, he's in it. He's in it.
So we'll see what happens. It should be cool. So I guess the final thing I wanted to ask you here, Dejuan, is so if you could say one thing to Candyman fans worldwide, what would it be? What would you say to them for their support throughout the years and their love of the movie?
First, I'll say thanks to all my fans who stream and watch Candyman, who bought DVDs, who I definitely appreciate it. I love all you guys, girls, everybody in between, everybody. I'm just grateful for you, because Candyman is the gift that keeps on giving. And that's 30 years later. So thank you guys. Tell your kids when they get old enough, watch Candyman. And let the legend keep living on.
Yeah, that was an awesome film for real. It was fantastic. And I just wanted to say thank you again, Dejuan, for all your time. And thank you for speaking with Horror News Network.